Your first project is called The Perfect Face, and this video will give you an idea of the steps you'll need to follow to complete the project. The first step will be to build the faces for your project. Let's see how to use this FlashFace website to build the faces that you're going to use for your project. So you need to think about what general shape you want your face to be. And over here in the middle of the page, you'll see ways that we can select facial features. So for example, we could select hair, we could select a shape of a head, eyebrows, glasses. So there's different facial features. Now I'd suggest that you start with perhaps the head shapes, and as you click on these you'll see different head shapes come up. These are hairless heads, so you'll put the hair on in the next step. Just pick some shape that you think looks nice, and then I'd suggest you probably come down here and find a chin that you like. Now as you click on these, you'll see that the chins may not line up exactly where you'd like them to be on the head, and that's okay because you can move these parts around. So if I decided I wanted that chin as opposed to that chin or this chin, I can come over here and maybe move the head up. So I'm just holding down the left mouse button as I drag the head or I drag the chin, and I can put it wherever I want to. So you need a general head shape. You also need some hair. My suggestion is not to go too wild on the hair. You'll find that there's hair that looks more like men's hair. There's also hair that looks more like a woman's hair. It doesn't matter what you pick, although I would suggest you not go with something that's really wild and outrageous, because if the hair is really big and very obvious, that may make it difficult to really focus in on the facial features. So I'd find some hair that looks, it's hair that looks like something that a person would have on their head, but it doesn't look like something that's going to detract from the face. You can move the hair around anywhere you want it. I'll put mine right about there. And then you need to put some eyes on and some eyebrows. I'm going to go to the eyes. There's lots of eyes over here to pick from. You can click through them, or you can come down here to these little arrows and pick any eyes that you want. I don't know, I'll stop with those. And then you also want to put some eyebrows on. Those are up here. Once again, you can put any eyebrows on you want, and keep in mind that you can also reposition them, and we'll talk about resizing them in a second. So if I want those eyebrows further down or farther up, I can put them wherever I want to. Put a nose on your person. There's lots of noses here. So this scrolls down. You can pick any nose that looks like a good nose. Once again, you can resize these noses, make them bigger, make them smaller. So don't worry too much about the overall size at this point, because you can change that. Just think about whether that looks like the nose that belongs on your face. And you definitely want to put a mouth on your person. So once again, there's lots and lots of mouths. You can pick any of these out to put on your face, and I don't know, I'll just pick that mouth. Alright, so once you've got your features on, you're probably going to want to resize them just a little bit to make your face look pleasing to you. And the resizing is done down here. So, in fact, let me zoom in just a tiny bit here so that you can see that a little bit better. So right down here you'll see something that looks kind of like a coordinate system. This is what you can use to resize. So let's say I decided that I wanted to change this mouth. So I've clicked on the mouth, and you can see that all the mouths are selected here also. So that means my mouth is what I am working with. And if I come over here to the center part of this coordinate system, and hold down the left mouse button and move this left and right, you'll see that what it's doing is stretching the mouth out farther or making the mouth narrower. And if I go up or down, it's stretching the mouth wider in the vertical direction, or it's making it narrower in the vertical direction. So you can make that wherever you want to, whatever looks good. You can resize any of these body parts. So I've just clicked on the nose. You can see all the noses up here. So I could resize this nose, stretch it out, shrink it in either direction. Same thing with the eyes. I'm going to click on the eyes and I can make them wider, narrower, taller, shorter, whatever I think looks good. So get your face looking how you think it looks good. Remember, all of these parts are movable. So even this chin, if I decided I wanted to move it up, but in moving it up I really need it wider, I can do that over here. So all of these pieces are sizable. So this is going to take a little time. You want to take your time and make a face that's pleasing to you. And then once you've got a face that you think is a nice looking face, what you're going to do is come over here and print the face. So over here there's some menus on the right side. There's one right here that says print face. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and print my face, and it's off being printed. Now that's just one face. You need 3 faces. And you want all your faces to look a lot like this one with some subtle changes. So what I'd suggest you do is change some of the distances and change some of the widths and heights of things. But don't be crazy about making these changes. Make them fairly subtle so that the faces all look similar, but there will be different distances that you can measure to make different ratios. So for example, I might decide that I'm going to make this chin. Have I selected the chin? I have. There's chins over here. Maybe I'll make this chin a little bit longer. Maybe I'll come over here to the mouth and I'm going to pull the mouth down just a tad. And the nose, I'm going to pull it down just a little bit. Maybe I decide I want to make the nose a little wider, just a little. And maybe the eyes I'm going to make a little wider. And maybe I've decided that's my second face. So I can print that one too. So come over here, print face. So now I've got my second face done. Now I need a third face that is similar to the first 2. So I'm going to make a few other changes. So maybe I'm going to, I'll make the hair go up a little more so it looks like this person's got, I'm not really sure if this is a man or a woman. It looks more like a woman to me. So I'll put the top of the head up a little bit. And then I think I'm going to take these eyes and move them down a bit. Maybe make them a little wider. Take the nose. Maybe I'll make the nose narrower this time. Narrower but a little longer. And maybe the mouth. I have no idea. I'll just change it somehow. So I'll make it narrower and maybe a little narrower that way. So I'm going to print that face. So now I've got my 3 faces. They all are going to look similar, but I've changed the proportions just a tad. And I'm going to want to show these 3 faces to the people that I'm going to ask my survey to. And I'll be able to ask them just which face do you think is the most pleasing. I'm not even going to ask them why it's the most pleasing, just what is the most pleasing to you. Now that you've got your faces made, you're ready to survey 10 people. So these are the 3 faces that I just printed out, and as you can see they're very similar, but there are some subtle changes that I've made from one face to the other. Now what I want to do is survey people about which face they think is the most beautiful. And I want to make sure that they don't have any preconceived notions about what is or is not a beautiful face. So one thing I've done is on the back of each face, I've just put a sticky note with a letter so that I know which face is which. So I don't want the person that I survey to see those letters because I don't want them to have any preconceived notions. But I do want to be able to tell them apart. So I'll ask the people I survey to rank the faces in order of beauty or in order of pleasingness or pleasantness, and then I'll just be able to record the results. So if they say they like face B first and face C second and face A third, I'll be able to record that. Of course, they don't know that it's face A, B, or C. So if they say, yes, I like this face the best, then you can say, yep, they like face C best. And then you could say, okay, for the next two faces, which one do you like best? And they might say, well, I like this one better. So now you know face A is their second choice, which would make face B their third choice. There are 12 measurements you're going to have to make on your face. This will give you a better idea of where to find those points that you need to measure between. It would be easiest if you would measure in metric units. For example, measure in millimeters. Then you won't have to work with decimal numbers. After you've done your survey, you're going to take the pictures that you used and mark the 14 points on the picture that you'll use to make the measurements. Then make all the measurements and write down those measurements on the picture. Remember, you need to do that for all 3 of your faces. So at this point, you're going to have everything that you need to complete your project report. So what you're going to find on My Gateway is a Word document that you'll be able to fill out and then print and turn in for your final project. Now, there's 4 pages to this document, and you will also, in addition to these 4 pages, be turning in the 3 faces that you used to question your survey participants, and you also will have marked on those pages the points that you used to find your measurements. So the first page in the report is simply asking you to write down the measurements that you determined for each of your 3 faces. Now remember, this is a Word document, so you'll simply type your measurements into the document. The second page is going to ask you to find some ratios between some of those measurements for your 3 faces. And at the bottom of that second page, you're going to be asked, based on the measurements that you determined for your 3 faces, which of the faces would be considered the most mathematically perfect and which would be the least mathematically perfect. And you have to explain what you're basing that judgment on. The box that you see at the bottom of the page is a text box that you can type into and type your answer to those questions. The third page is asking you what the results of your survey were. So for each of the 10 respondents, you're going to indicate whether they considered face A, face B, or face C to be the most pleasing. So you're going to basically rank the faces. So whichever face they said was the most pleasing, you're going to mark with a 1, and whatever they said was the least pleasing, you'll mark with a 3. And you'll do that for each of your 10 respondents. But remember, at this point, you've already done your survey, so you're just copying your data into this table. And then based on those results from your 10 participants, you're going to decide which face your participants believed was the most pleasing and which was the least pleasing. And at the bottom of this page, you're going to explain how you made that decision based on those survey results. And once again, that is a text box at the bottom, so you'll be able to simply type inside that box. And the last page is your conclusions. So at this point, you have mathematically determined what should be the most pleasing face, and you have determined by a survey what is deemed to be the most pleasing face. So now you're going to draw some conclusions about whether or not the mathematics accurately predicted whether which was the most pleasing face, and you will be asked to explain your results as well. You have another text box, so you'll be typing in your conclusions into the text box. So as you can see, you've got a little bit of work to do before you get to this point where you're actually filling out your final project report. So it would be a good idea to get started on the process, making your faces and going out and finding 10 people who will give you their opinions on the faces, start to gather your data so that you can get started on this project report.